Good morning, everybody. This is Diggs. It's another beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest, and today we're going to be talking about numbers. We're going to be talking about attack speed. We're going to be talking about critical hit rate, specifically Chronos and Milky Way bows, as well as passives for the rogue class and what is going to be optimal. Hopefully, you'll be able to apply this to your character and optimization for what you do. So let's go ahead and dig in. The first thing I want to clarify, because a lot of people have talked about this, is that the Chronos Bow does not lower your skill cooldowns. The skill cooldowns, aren't going to be affected by the Chronos Bow. And there are a lot of people who seem to indicate that that's a rumor that's like permeated throughout Kuni. You can literally equip a Chronos Bow and you can check the cast time of your spells and of your basic skills, and you can easily see that Chronos does not impact that. So I recently acquired my Chronos Bow and my Milky Way bow because, for those that don't know, when you do hit level 100, you do get a bundle which gives you the option to select a rare plus weapon. So I did select the Milky Way bow, and I already had my Chronos Bow here. You can see it's cursed already, and we have attack speed plus 12.5%. And a lot of people talk about what the best kind of build is going to be endgame. A lot of people say Chronos and Milky Way. A lot of people say the Fire Bow is the most important because it gives basic attack up. And so I wanted to test some of these, and I wanted to test specifically critical hit rate and attack speed, because Rogue in particular has different passive abilities that can impact attack speed. And also impact attack. So for me, what I was really interested in when I was testing against the dummies was the interaction between plus attack, the interaction between attack speed plus attack, and the interaction between attack speed and critical hit rate. And what I found is pretty interesting, and I think it will depend on class. Now, we're going to go ahead and queue up here, and I'm going to put it on semi-auto because I think, like for most situations, particularly for swordsman, witch, and rogue, you have these varying levels of damages, right? You're seeing some of my hits are even doing like 6,000 damage. Some of them are doing 60,000 damage. Some of them are doing 30,000 damage, right? And a lot of classes have these multi-hit abilities that kind of vary in damage. So when you're looking at something like critical hit rate up, you usually think that you're dealing consistent damage and that critical hit rate is going to apply that consistent damage. The reality is, though, when you're playing Ni no Kuni, your character is actually doing quite inconsistent damage. You're not going to be always crit modifying a very powerful attack. You might crit modify a less powerful attack. So because of that, you're going to see that critical hit rate is, while very powerful, is not going to have sort of the drastic impact immediately that you might think on your damage, right? You look at, for example, Rogue's passive ability here that is hidden behind the tomes, right? So that's going to be, there you are, risk and return. And this gives damage up by 2.44%. Stack times 5 is going to give a damage plus upwards of 10-12%. This is going to give you significantly more damage than a critical hit rate up. Even though you might think that critical hit rate is going to kind of compete with this a little bit, it's not going to compare to the raw damage increase. So critical hit rate, especially on Rogue, it seems, is good. It's going to be best in slot no matter what eventually, but it's not as important, I think, as attack speed. And I think there are other factors here that play into attack speed for Rogue as well. When we were testing out the Chronos weapon, for Rogue, we do have an important passive ability, and that passive ability is swift movement, and that ties in with risk and return. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Rogue's abilities, a lot of Rogue's abilities have to do with stacking 5 hits on the opponent, and then you get a buff for a certain amount of seconds. So if your attack speed is higher, you are going to get that buff to last a longer amount of time, right? So particularly with swift movement, that already is going to give you attack speed up 8%, right? Or 10% when it's fully maxed out. And you have the combination of risk and return, right? Which is going to give you a huge damage increase. There is incentive already for Rogue to really be focusing on this attack speed element in their build. And it does really kind of synergize really well with Rogue when you do have the Chronos weapon. So attack speed, of course, is going to increase the amount of hits that you do overall, which is also going to increase the amount of critical hits that you're going to do, which is also going to increase the amount of basic attacks that you're going to do as well. So it makes sense that in the future, you know, when I'm looking at the best build for Rogue right now, I'm looking at Fire Bow as my main weapon, right, for that basic attack up. I'm looking at Chronos as my secondary weapon for attack speed up, and I'm also looking at Milky Way for that critical hit rate up as kind of a secondary option. And those are going to become more powerful slowly over time, right, when I am dealing more damage, when I am attacking faster, right, as Chronos gets enhanced, as Milky Way gets enhanced, they're going to synergize nicely together. So I think there is kind of a misconception that, you know, you just need to set Milky Way or that Chronos is kind of useless. And I think for specific classes like Rogue, it's actually going to be one of the better in slot pieces of gear. And I would actually take a Chronos right now as opposed to a Milky Way for Rogue. And I think that is kind of a misconception that's not realized currently in at least Rogue meta and Rogue builds that we're talking about. Other things to factor in here are going to be your skill levels. If you're looking, like, I don't even have skill level 10 right now, so I can't necessarily accurately test what a skill level 10 versus a Milky Way or a Chronos would be. But what I can tell you from my testing is attack speed, usually setting attack speed, let's say attack speed 10%, is usually going to increase my damage output by about 5% on Rogue. So for every 10% attack speed, that's essentially the same as setting attack plus 5% in terms of consistency damage. And plus crit is going to be a little bit more fluctuating than that. So this is pretty much what I've been testing and experimenting with on Rogue right now. I think if we were to prioritize a damage scale in terms of passives, I would probably focus on attack speed, then crit, depending on what the crit percentage is, and then attack. I would say crit, very similarly to attack speed, probably has a 2-to-1 ratio to attack, right? So if you have the choice of either setting an attack plus 5% or a critical hit rate plus 5%, I would set the attack plus 5%, unless of course you are stacking critical hit rate or stacking critical damage, because critical damage is also important to consider as we are looking at Milky Way and we are looking at 4-star equipment and subbing in 4-star and subbing in 5-star and the different awakening levels, because all of that factors in and makes Milky Way even stronger the more awakening you get. If you have an awakened 7 5-star, or sorry, if you have an awakened 7 rare 4-star weapon, right, that's going to be really powerful. I think it's also important to factor in the fact that, you know, if you are using your rare plus weapons, right, if you have a fire weapon that is a rare plus weapon and you're setting the regular fire weapon for your PvE build and you're looking at either setting Milky Way or attack speed, I would actually probably set attack speed over Milky Way, because it is going to be less crit focused, right? Because your rare plus fire weapon isn't going to have the crit damage on it, right? So you're probably going to need more attack speed, and that's probably going to be more influential than having your Milky Way set. So there's so many things to think about here, and we haven't even factored in the conversation about accuracy yet, particularly if you are free to play, and we also haven't factored in the plus crit versus crit resistance in this equation, right? Because there is the flat critical bonus that you would get from Milky Way, and then there is the bonus critical hit chance that you get from that by having a critical hit rate difference opposed to your opponent's critical resistance. So you could potentially do critical rate plus builds if you are maybe farming lower level monsters, or if you are like level 110 and you just want to kill faster. So there is a lot to consider, but what I wanted you to take away from this video is that, at least for Rogue, Chronos seems to be better than Milky Way in terms of damage, and I think a lot of people don't realize that. So thank you so much for watching, everybody, and have a great rest of your day.